We'll create public-private partnerships to help firms break into new markets with the help of those who have been there, shipping and supply chain companies, for example. And we'll increase funding for existing promotion efforts. We'll increase funding for the International Trade Administration at the Department of Commerce and strengthen the USDA's ability to connect farmers with new overseas markets. So we're going to increase financing, advocacy, and assistance for American businesses to locate, set up shop, and win new markets. Those are the first three aims of the National Export Initiative. The fourth focuses on making sure American companies have free and fair access to those markets. And that begins by enforcing trade agreements we already have on the books. When I ran for president, I promised that when the United States of America puts its name to an agreement, that agreement will be as good for workers as it is for businesses, including strong labor and environmental protections that we'll enforce. My administration is living up to that promise. Ambassador Kirk has been doing an extraordinary job as our United States trade representative, and he's been working to knock down barriers that unfairly keep American companies from markets we belong in, hold our trade partners to their labor and environmental obligations, and crack down on practices that blatantly harm our companies. I mean, keep in mind, the United States offers some of the world's lowest barriers to trade. That's why we can often get more out of a trade deal, because our borders are largely already open. And when we give other countries the privilege of that free and fair access, we can expect it in return. That's the spirit in which we'll move forward. So we're going to continue to work towards an ambitious and imbalanced Doha agreement, not just for the sake of any agreement, but for one that enhances market access for American agriculture and goods and services. We're going to strengthen relations with key partners, specifically South Korea, Panama, Colombia, with the goal of moving forward with existing agreements in a way that upholds our values. And we will pursue negotiations in the Trans-Pacific Partnership that we launched last year with some of the most dynamic economies in Asia. Negotiations that I believe will result in a new standard for 21st century trade agreements that aren't just good for workers, businesses, and farmers, but also consistent with our most cherished values. What's more, we're going to aggressively protect our intellectual property. Our single greatest asset is the innovation and the ingenuity and creativity of the American people. It is essential to our prosperity, and it will only become more so in this century. But it's only a competitive advantage if our companies know that someone else can't just steal that idea and duplicate it with cheaper inputs and labor. There's nothing wrong with people using our technologies. We welcome it. We just want to make sure that it's licensed and that American businesses are getting paid appropriately. And that's why USTR is using the full arsenal of tools available to crack down on practices that blatantly harm our businesses, and that includes negotiating proper protections and enforcing our existing agreements, and moving forward on new agreements, including the proposed anti-counterfeiting trade agreement. We'll also work within the G20 to continue global recovery and growth. Last year, when the G20 met to coordinate the international response to our global economic crisis, we agreed that in order for that growth to continue, we needed to rebalance our economies. For too long, America served as the consumer engine for the entire world. But we're rebalancing. We are now saving more. And that means that everybody's got to rebalance. Countries with external deficits need to save and export more. Countries with external surpluses need to boost consumption and domestic demand. And as I've said before, China moving to a more market-oriented exchange rate will make an essential contribution to that global rebalancing effort. I want to commend Secretary Tim Geithner for his extraordinary work and his tremendous leadership throughout this past year within the G20, and I know he'll keep encouraging other nations to rebalance global demand. And those are efforts that will be good for our exports, good for our job growth, good for the world economy as a whole. Finally, we're working to reform our export control system for our strategic, high-tech industries, which will strengthen our national security. What we want to do is concentrate our efforts on enforcing controls on the export of our most critical technologies, making America safer while enhancing the competitiveness of key American industries. We've conducted a broad review of the export control system, and Secretary Gates will outline our reform proposal within the next couple of weeks. But today I'd like to announce 2 steps that we're prepared to take. First, we're going to streamline the process certain companies need to go through to get their products to market. Products with encryption capabilities like cell phone and network storage devices. Right now, they endure a technical review that can take between 30 and 60 days, and that puts that company at a distinct disadvantage to foreign competitors who don't face those same delays. So a new one-time online process will shorten that review time from 30 days to 30 minutes. And that makes it quicker and easier for our businesses to compete while meeting our national security requirements. And second, we're going to eliminate unnecessary obstacles for exporting products to companies with dual national and third country national employees. Currently, our exporters and foreign consumers of these goods have to comply with 2 different conflicting set of standards. They're running on 2 tracks when they could be running just on 1. So we're moving towards harmonizing those standards and making it easier for American and foreign companies to comply with our requirements without diminishing our security. And I look forward to consulting with Congress on these reforms as well as broader export control reform efforts. So that's how we're going to double our exports, open up new markets, and level the playing field for American businesses and American workers. I have every confidence that we can succeed in this effort. I have every confidence that we will succeed in this effort. This is a difficult time for our country. And in times like these, questions have always arisen about whether or not America's best days are behind us. That's standard fare. It happens every so often. There have always been naysayers and skeptics. There have always those who've waxed fatalistic, fearing that we lack the capacity to adapt, to succeed, at times even to survive in a changing world. But what makes America great, what continues to make America the envy of our competitors, what makes this a place where people come not just to invest, but to start lives and businesses and families, is something that has been inexorable and enduring, especially in times of great challenge and great change. It's that spirit of adventurousness and entrepreneurship that has for generations turned wild-eyed tinkerers into world-changing entrepreneurs, that led us westward and skyward, that led to roads and railways cutting through wilderness and ships and planes and fiber optic lines carrying American goods and services around the world. It's the spirit that has advanced America's leadership in the world and held aloft the American dream for generations. And it is ultimately that spirit that's given us the tools and the toughness to overcome every obstacle and adapt to every circumstance. And today is no different. It hasn't always been easy. Our success is by no means guaranteed. But if we summon a sense of national purpose equal to the seriousness of these times, if we combine our creativity, our innovation, and our eternal optimism, if we come together in common cause as we have so many times before, we will succeed. We will define our destiny once again, and we will make this century another American century, with your help. Thank you very much, everybody. God bless you. God bless the United States of America.